30 to 50% of people experiencing guilt frequently. So the examples would be like, they overparent, work issues, relationship issues. Shame studies shows that 50 to 60% of people struggle with shame-related feelings on a regular basis, whether it's related to self-worth, past mistakes, social judgment, which I think is big. People always want to look good in front of their peers.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
So the bottom line is, at least on the low end, 50 to 60% of people, or 50% of people at least, are experiencing this on a regular basis. And that's crazy. That's crazy. And then you look at our world and we're kind of you're wondering the mentality of our world and how depression, anxiety, suicide, and all this other stuff is just kind of skyrocketing. It's going through the roof. They're coming out more and more meds all the time, but nothing's happening.
Welcome to More Than Black and White Health Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Paul, facilitator, author, and co-host with my dude Brian. Who you?
Brian, entrepreneur, investor. Love learning new things. Student of the universe. Traveler. Love traveling. My passion.
And you traveling, right? You traveling coming up too, right?
Yeah, I'm leaving in 2 days. I'm going to doing the Middle East tour. Me and my wife are going out for our 1 year anniversary. We're doing Dubai, Egypt, and Jordan.
What?
Yeah.
Bruh.
You didn't get
You didn't going?
I already got you a ticket.
Bruh.
Dude.
Listen, man, don't play with me. You're sitting there, but let's go. I'll be Brian, I'm over here. Let's go. Right, listen. So first of all, we're definitely doing an episode on that trip. I'm
looking forward to it.
And listen, if welcome to the podcast. We are here to help you and support you be an advocate for your health and well-being, so you can do many wonderful things with your life, like how Brian's doing, traveling, enjoying life with his wife, man. 1st year anniversary, bless up. And the reason why, you're welcome, brother. You're welcome. I can't, dude. Year already? That's how you know time flies, bro.
Mm-hmm.
How you know it flies. So one of the things not one, but the main thing we're going to talk about today is guilt and shame. So as we talk about traveling and doing all this thing, how this relates to health and well-being is that if a person's in guilt or in shame, it can prevent them from really stepping into, as Brian and I like to talk about, their dharma, their health and well-being, their should shame. It's we're going to go into it today, and we're excited for you to be here. Like, share, subscribe. If it's the first time you're seeing us, welcome. If you're returning a subscriber, bless up, and thank you for your support. So when it comes to guilt and shame, if you've been a podcast supporter, you've seen Brian and I bring up the feelings wheel, the emotions wheel, right? And guilt and shame are very low vibrations. So when we talk about guilt and shame, understanding it, let's talk about really, first of all, what it is. Guilt is, and there's the distinction. Remember, Brian and I were talking about this. Guilt is, I did something wrong. Okay? Think about a judge coming down on you like, you're guilty. Shame is, I am wrong. Oh, I should have done this better. I shouldn't have said that. I'm a terrible person. Sound familiar? B, have you ever had those comments, those internal conversations?
Yeah, when I was younger, I had a lot of that. I was very insecure of myself, and when I didn't get something didn't go my way, I didn't realize that I had power to make it go my way. So I guess disempowered myself and gave that responsibility to an external and piece in the environment. I'm not a good person because of this and this and this happened.
Yeah, man. It's man, thank you for sharing that, and I can relate. And I'm happy that we're talking about this, because I think in our society, man, it lays the groundwork for people to feel guilt and shame. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying, B? Like when you look at social media, because I find myself getting caught up. I don't know if you do that. I don't know if that happens for you, but like I can find myself at times if I'm like off my task, like
Mhm.
looking at what other people are doing, like, damn, you know what? If I had done this back in the day, I'd be there too. You know what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah.
For my folks
Yeah.
watching it, you guys get what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
See what I mean? It's like, so, dude, it's like, well, I'm gonna ask you, man, like when you hear the words guilt and shame, like besides the definition, like is there something that comes to mind for you, like an experience or like a
Yeah, I do a lot of like growth or personal growth with people, and I do consultations with people, and people come up to me and are like, hey, like, can you help me out with the business plan, or can you help me out, like I'm not on the right track, or like I want to get to like where you're getting or this person is getting, like, hey, let's sit down and talk. And then we start going over, when I start talking, then we start going over like, goal setting and like, hey, talk to me about your family and everything like that. Tell me about your support system, because that's who's usually holding people back.
mm,
And I
mm,
always see like, oh, I want to start a business, but I know it's going to take a lot of time, and I don't want to be away from the kids now, or my wife's used to me giving her a certain amount of attention, and I have to focus now that attention on my new business. So they get kind of stuck in this wheel, or it's like kind of like this, like, yeah, I guess a wheel, and they just have so much guilt. And then what happens is that guilt from not doing what their dharma, what they're supposed to be doing,
yeah,
it eventually leads into resentment, and that's going to destroy the relationship. So I kind of try to paint this picture with them, like, yeah, it's like, listen, like if you're not following your goals, how healthy do you think your relationship is going to be in the future? It's not going to be. You can fake it. You can be like, oh, I love you, but deep down inside, like, I love you, but I could
right,
have been somewhere. You know what I mean? So I see this a lot of people, and I don't. I mean, I think it comes back to childhood. I think it comes back to or maybe our educational system, where you're either right or you're wrong, and if you're not a good student, you're always wrong, and that just crushes your confidence, and it makes you feel shameful.
yeah.
I think it comes, your parents. A lot of times, like your parents could have guilt and shame, and then your parents try to overparent you. I've seen this so many times. Where like
Oh, great point, bro.
overparent you, and
Yep,
dude. That you want to fuck up a kid.
bro.
I think that's one of the first things you do. The main thing you do is you overparent.
Yeah, bro. And it's super easy to do, bro, because
Yeah,
like I've been in that space too. Where it's like, because when you bring in that example, I'm like, damn, he's talking to me, isn't he? God damn it, Brian, not he on the podcast. But no, when I was like going through, like when I was going through my divorce, I had so much guilt and shame that like I was here, right, B, and I was like
hmm
trying to go all the way over here.
yeah,
So that had me over parenting, that like over protecting and
yeah,
thinking like, oh, I'm such a like I had the guilt of like I've done something wrong, like
hmm
I've left this woman, like I've messed up my family. Then it's like I had the shame piece, like I'm a piece of shit because like I left my kid with this woman, I left blah 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 blah. So it was like it's a spiral, and then like when I would have time with them, then I was like, hey, let's go to Chuck E. Cheese and you know what I mean? Like it was not, it wasn't parenting. It was like I was trying to one up some shit because
yeah,
I was in so much guilt and shame. So
yeah,
it's I think it's important for people to understand that piece of it about how it could come about, man. I'm so happy you brought that up because I think there's so many things that people are experiencing that they're in this guilt and shame and they're not even they're failing to acknowledge it, B, right?
yeah,
Which is making it even worse.
yeah,
Even worse. But so I'm curious, like you before we started, you were saying that there was some like I'd like to check in with like some of the percentages. You were talking about some of the
yeah,
percentages you found, bro. Like
yeah. I did some research on this. I was trying to figure out, like, because like I think if you don't have guilt, and if you have guilt and shame, or you experience this on a
mhm,
on a regular basis, you're gonna be stuck. You're never going to level yourself. You're never going to have more personal growth or professional growth. It's you can only fake it for so long. So I was like,
right.
oh, just kind of curious on like what percentage people have. So according to research, I've looked at a few studies. It shows that 85 to 90% of people experience guilt occasionally. I don't know what occasionally means. Maybe just like little episodes.
Yes.
There, or it could be maybe like a month or a week. I have no idea.
Yeah.
With 30 to 50%, with 30 to 50% of people experiencing guilt frequently. So the examples would be like, they overparent, work issues, relationship issues.
Mm.
Shame studies that shows that 50 to 60% of people struggle with shame-related feelings on a regular basis, whether it's related to like self-worth, past mistakes, social judgment, which I think is big. People always want to look good in front of their peers.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
hey, the
Wow.
bottom line is, at least on the low end, 50 to 60% of people, or 50% of people at least, are experiencing this on a regular basis. And that's crazy. That's crazy. And then you look at our world and we're kind of like, you're like wondering the mentality of our world, and like how depression, anxiety, suicide, and all this other stuff is just kind of skyrocketing. It's going through the roof. They're coming out more and more meds all the time, but nothing's happening. So I think, like you mentioned before, you have to take this on head on. And a lot of people, they don't like to look inside because they got to bring up deep shadows or deep work. They got to do some shadow work, and they have some issues. So they'd rather pass it on by over-parenting, bring it into their work,
Mm-hmm.
hide it in relationships.
Mm.
And again, at the end of the day, you're not going to be successful in any of those departments.
Yeah, well, you're right, man. You're right. I appreciate that, what you're saying. And the studies, like, damn, 34, 30, 50%. And I'm thinking of, like, one of the things we talked about is rewriting the narrative. Because, like, I was hearing you say about, like, relationships, right? Like, I've said this, and I've said this recently, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It was around the time when I was making the user manual. I was like, yo, I'm terrible in relationships, bro. I have a terrible picker. Like, I pick a bunch of heathens. They're a lot of fun though. But I pick a bunch of heathens, man. Um, I'm like, damn. But one of the things I recognize is that if I can take whatever this situation is that I'm guilty or in shame about,
Mm-hmm.
learn from it if I
Yeah.
choose, right? But that's rewriting this internal narrative, which I think is very important. A lot of people have this thing in their head about, like, oh, well, I can only, oh, well, I'm a piece of doo-doo. And they're stuck in that, B. And I listen, if you watching and you're like, oh my God, they're talking about me. This is for your judgment. We're just calling to light what's there, what's real, man, because like this stuff will impact you. When I was talking about the organs, like it will impact you because all of a sudden the guilt and shame brings us into a primal place of fight or flight, right? Or freeze, like, oh my God, they're doing this, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you freeze in here, and now you're like, oh, I really feel like crap. I really feel like crap. Because listen, when we look at it, right? And I was looking at the notes, and I like this part that says, one mistake does not define you. Okay. And if a person fails to acknowledge that, you best believe you're gonna make more mistakes. You know what I'm saying, B? You're
Yeah.
gonna make more mistakes. Oh. Yo, and that's what it is, man. Like, so we get to figure out how to rewrite this or yo, shoot, I did the wrong one. What? Oh, we did. No, wait. Yeah, I did. Rewrite your narrative, right? Rewrite your
Yeah.
internal narrative. Well, one of the other things we talk about too is separating the actions from identity, right? That's where I really want to go. Like, if I make a mistake, it doesn't have to define like
Mm.
who I am. Like when I was talking about the divorce before, like that defined me for a lot of times because I felt like a piece of crap that
Yeah.
I left, even though it was for my life. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
so it was very interesting to go through that, man, and experience that.
Yeah.
But I want to check in, man, like because I want to come back to the internal narrative because I was like I was all excited and I mixed up the notes, but when you see like when we talk about separate actions from identity, like what's something that you've seen, like especially working with people that's helped them separate the actions or something that you've done for yourself, bro?
As far as setting the internal narrative, like
Yeah,
identifying
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
man.
So like I think one of the biggest things is that's helped me grow and gave me more confidence in being okay with failing is being an entrepreneur. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is like if you want to be successful and make good money on your own, you have to take chances. You have to throw a lot of irons in the fire. And you have to go in there knowing that they're all not going to catch fire. All those irons are not going to get hot. So you just keep throwing them in there until something catches. Then you kind of build off that. And now once you build off that, you might have 10 different other opportunities building off that. And maybe only one works. Then you follow that one. Then so basically you fail more times or you make mistakes more times and you have more setbacks as an entrepreneur than probably like, definitely working as an employer, because as an employer, they don't give you, from most employers, they don't give you the opportunity to have lateral thinking. They want you to kind of fit in this box. If
mm,
that doesn't work, so with an entrepreneur, it's like you have to have lateral thinking. You have to use more of your, I don't want to say more because, other jobs you have to be creative too, but
yeah.
you're confined to a box. So just
Mm,
being in this kind of lifestyle for 20 years, and trust me, like, man, I didn't start really, in my opinion, becoming like financially successful until about 3 years ago. So
mm,
literally, 16, 17, 18 years, man, I was just like ramming my head against a wall. But I never at one point had like, oh, I'm a bad business person. I'm like, you can't have that mindset. Even if you, even if you think it for a second, you got to be like, no, I just made a mistake. Now I learned, what was that? What did I learn from that mistake? Okay, that made me a better business person because I learned from that mistake. I found out what it is instead of sitting there sulking in that, that mistake that you make, because you're going to make them.
yeah, you will, and that's important. You will make the mistakes. And what I was hearing from what I was hearing in that is really the rewriting, but the rewiring.
Yeah.
Because a lot, and I've experienced this too, especially just starting, just like when I had like training businesses and like my own thing, like, hey, it's my business, yeah. Like when it didn't work out the way I wanted it to,
Hmm.
my natural wiring of the brain focused on the negative. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, you should have done this, you did this, you're terrible. Like, why do you
Yeah.
that's the brain, right? Because before I was talking about the fight or flight, that's our natural tendency. The brain's gonna focus on the negative to keep us safe. Okay,
Yeah.
like a safety regulator.
This is interesting too, because I see it when I do like consulting with people, and they have these goals. There's a lot of stuff out there that says, "Hey, tell everyone your goals," so you manifest it into the universe and be confident when you say it. A lot of people aren't ready for that. And what I mean by that is, if you're telling everyone, like, just say you're starting off and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna start this business. I'm gonna make this amount of money," blah 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 blah, and you're telling everyone this, and chances are it's not going to work out right away. And then next time you meet that person that's not in your inner circle or not somebody that's supportive, they're going to come to you and you can be like, "Hey, how's that business going?" And what's going to happen? You're going to feel shame. You're going to feel embarrassed because, like, oh, like you're going to feel like a failure. So when in the beginning, like, even to this day, I don't tell a lot of people what I'm doing. I just, unless they're like, they really want to, like, they're genuinely like want to know so I can help them out. But
Mhm.
like, I think I've read somewhere like Mel Gibson had a clip. I think I posted it on our Instagram today, where like the number one fear that people have is public humility or
Humiliation.
humiliation. Sorry,
Yep.
humiliation. So if you tell a bunch of people that, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then that doesn't happen, you face that public humiliation. And that brings down a lot of shame. That brings down a lot of guilt. And then you're not going to want to take chances in the future. Keep your goals very small in the beginning until you start getting that traction.
Mm. So like when I'm hearing that, right, it's like I'm thinking of another segment we have where it's like setting healthy boundaries around guilt.
Yeah.
And the reason why this comes up for me is I think it's important for a person to know themselves and have that boundary of knowing themselves and be able to speak truth, right?
Mhm.
Because if I'm in guilt or shame, I'm trying to please everybody, and then like in a situation like you said, like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna conquer the world.
Mhm.
And then I see somebody, and then like, what happened? Oh, well, what happened was, if I'm in guilt or shame, I'm gonna get beat up by that situation. But if I have healthy boundaries around, like, oh well, you know what? I was a little ahead of myself, but what I did instead is this. You know what I mean? Because now it's like I can claim it. It's not gonna make me feel a certain. It's not even make me, but I will fail to allow myself to feel a certain way based on the situation. I can still stand tall, and be like, you know what? Yeah, I was I don't know what I was thinking, and like, nah, I didn't do that shit.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years
Yeah.
from now, not right now. You
And
know
I
what I
think
mean?
as you get older, I think you become more confident in yourself. So as I'm getting older and I'm becoming better and better at my craft, I'm more open to telling more people because I don't care. Like I'm at a point in my life where like we've had this conversation. Like people say they don't care, but they care. Like I truly don't care what people think. For the most part, like I have my inner group of friends that that's my safety security. But outside of that, it's like the rest of
Yeah.
the 8 million people, 8 billion people, it's all good if you whatever way you think about me. I could care less. I
So
sleep
good.
fine at night.
Yeah,
But,
bro.
in the
Exactly.
beginning, yeah, but in the beginning, when you're younger, you're a little more immature and you're very, and you're more vulnerable to other people's opinions. It can be damaging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I think being vulnerable to the other people's opinions leads to one of the situations I've had difficulty with in my life is the guilt of saying no.
Mm, yeah.
And because I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Hmm.
So being able to say no, like in the past, like, well, I was like, oh, I don't want to say no because like then like, what if they need this or whatever? And I was making myself more important than I had to be. It was like, oh, I have to help them. If I can't say no. Oh, I'm gonna take care of their dog. No, it's like, what is this, man? So I think a lot of people have that situation. If you're watching and that's you, then put a thumbs up in the comment or like acknowledge like what is the impact or what really is the impact of you saying no? Like what really is the impact? Like nothing. Like listen, it's gonna and again like Brian, like you were saying, like I used to be so consumed with what people think, and I was hearing what you're saying. Like I don't care what people think, except for my small circle. And the thing is, like my small circle, if they're telling me what they think, I think of that as feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's not criticism. It's not this. It's like, yo, man, I love what you're doing. But yo, man, you took your foot off the gas on that piece. You know that, right? Like, damn, I did, didn't I?
Yeah. If you don't say no, your yeses have no value. People
None.
just people just walk all over you.
Yeah.
I,
And bro,
I try I try to I try to I try to say no more and more. I think I mean I definitely did this in the last probably 5 years. I've been saying no a lot more, so a lot less people ask me for favors, so they know it's coming. But
yeah,
if it doesn't align with my values and morals, like, and I don't have the time, I have a busy schedule now. Like I got a lot of things going on, as we all do. So it's like if I have like an hour break, yeah, I could do this for somebody that I talk to once every maybe 2 or 3 times a year, or I could take this hour and rest and recover so I could be sharper in the next couple of hours. I'm going to take that rest and recovery 100% of the time, unless I feel like that person needs is an emergency. Of course, I got your back if it's an emergency, but if it's something stupid, like, whatever it is, like, I don't know, whatever, but you know what I mean? So unless it's urgent, I'm not going to, take time out of take more energy for myself.
yeah, man. Well, I'm what I'm hearing that is the prioritization
Yeah.
and prioritizing what you get to get done over like being like yes, oh well I got this. And listen, and people, here's the thing too, is that to be cautious of, if I'm gonna speak from my own perspective, when I'm in guilt or shame, it's easier to get it's easier for people to make me feel guilty. Super easy. If
Hmm.
I'm already in that space and people are like, oh man, well, you did it last time, like, oh man, like you're gonna do me like that. I thought we were friends. I thought you said anytime I needed you, you could come, I could call, you could help me out. Can I get 500? What?
That's when I say, I'm sorry, I can't do anything, hang up, and I block that shit. Dude, anybody try to play that guilt card on me, fuck that. Like, I've done that. Like, I've had friends that are like, for years, and they try to play that guilt card, like, oh, you're always around, you're never around, you're always too busy. Like, I thought we were friends, you can't even do this, you can't do, like, if you trying to make me feel guilty to hang out with you to fill a void, like, I want to be around you. So, fuck that shit. No, fuck that, man.
Yeah, dude. And listen, people rock that. People rock it.
Oh yeah.
Because like what people get to recognize, and that's why I think it's important we're talking about this, is that most people are manipulators, and we all are manipulators in some way.
Sure.
And if people want to get something, they'll naturally turn on the guilt. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a mechanism. Right? We talked about the brain wanting to keep us safe, right? Mm-hmm. So if we want to get to comfort, we can manipulate, be like, oh well, I don't know, whatever manipulation sounds like. Mm-hmm. So and it's not a good, I'm free of saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm saying it more for an awareness piece, because like it's just what it is. And one of the things too is like I'm gonna jump around a little bit, Brian, because
you do you, buddy. Yeah, I'm just here to ride. I'm just waiting.
Nice. Yeah, you're like, let's go, let's ride out, baby, let's ride. So like, what I want to move to, right, is developing a resilient identity. And hold on, I'm just gonna put this in here, identity, because I think, especially with what we're talking about here, right? Save. When I think about what we're talking about here, being able to have the ability to bounce back, and that comes from with, again, like that rewriting the internal narrative, separating the actions from identity. But really, like how you were talking about from that entrepreneurial perspective, there's a resiliency that a person has to develop to be able to come out of it. Because listen, like emotions are, it's in transit. If you want to stay in emotion, you can stay there. Like, Brian, you talked about having like a 10-minute pity party. For me, it's probably like a day. But like, it's like, it's necessary to have that space to experience the emotion to move out of it. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the resiliency piece. If people are like, oh, I'm stuck here. Okay, so how do you bounce back? What do you do? And what's the words that you're saying in your head? Is it like, damn, man, like I'm never gonna get this right? Or do you say, dang, okay, I found another way it doesn't work. Let me find another way. Let me find a way that will work. Right? Notice the tone and the energy in the words. So be like, especially for you, because I know like with your businesses, and I know it's like, while you said like, hey man, the success is hitting over the last 3 years, bro, I know you had some spots, bro, where shit was dire. So talk to the people about your rewiring and how you developed your resilient mindset, bro, your identity.
Yeah. I've never been a big fan of just sulking in my mistakes. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of people that I look up to, a lot of mentors, and some of these mentors I never met before. Some of them they're not, they lived, 100 years ago, but I read their autobiographies, I read their books, I YouTube nowadays, like just say I put money in the stock market and it loses money. I can be like, oh man, I'm really bad at stocks. Or I can be like, all right, how do I not make the same mistake next time? Let me look up watch maybe like 1 or 2 YouTube videos on like new ways to invest in stocks, or maybe I made a mistake somewhere around there. Maybe I put too much into it. I didn't diverse enough. So I can complain about the money that I lost in the stocks, or I can focus on, all right, how do I set up safety nets so this doesn't happen again? And I'll learn from other people. Maybe I'll read Warren Buffett's book, or, do whatever it is. I'll find people where they are in their life, successful people where I want to be, or I want to get to that point. So focusing on learning. I'm focusing on, I love learning, man. It just like, I got like goosebumps. I love educating myself. I love every day waking up knowing that I'm going to learn a few things that I didn't know the day before. That inspires me. So every time I fail or every time I do something which is like, oh, that was kind of dumb, I know I'm going to learn something. And I'm going to force myself to learn something. I don't have to sit there. I don't have to sit there and be like, okay, I put all this money in NVIDIA and it dropped 20% yesterday. Why did I do that? Okay, but you know what? Let's learn how to diverse my portfolio. Let's learn what kind of stocks are the best to get into right now. Maybe it's crypto, maybe it's AI, maybe it's the S&P, whatever it is. And then I'll maybe watch a video on each one. And I'll be like, okay, I didn't know this about this. Oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. All right. And now I'm excited. I don't even think about that money I lost.
Yeah.
That's just, that's just one example. And the same thing with business. Like, man, I'm buying a business right now. And my God, like, no offense to you lawyers out there, but if somebody's buying a business and you want to fuck up a deal, you have a good lawyer. Hire a good lawyer. Like, it's just like, man, it's like you have some, like the sellers and the buyers, they agree on something, and they give it to the lawyer. The lawyer's like, oh, you should do this. The lawyer's trying to make it a little more difficult for the seller. So, and then they go back and forth. And the more times they go back and forth, the more money they make. I mean, I got a really, one of my lawyers. I have two lawyers. One of them is really phenomenal. I wouldn't be where I am without him today, without his advice. But man, the other one,
you're like,
learning about the process. That's my point. I could sit there and bitch and complain how everything is taking, going slowly and all this other stuff is going on, or I can be like, I can maybe watch a video on legal transactions on how the businesses go when somebody buys when somebody sells what they look for in a way. So now I'm learning. So next time I do buy another business, I know what kind of lawyer I want. This was brand new to me.
Yeah.
So that inspires me. I learned some lingo, some like lawyer lingo, and that inspires me. So it's all good, man. It's all a learning experience. It's world. The universe we're all students. We're all sitting in this classroom with 8 billion chairs, and we're just taking notes, man. If you're willing to take notes.
Ain't that the truth, bro? It's like, listen, and all those people, man.
Yeah.
Part of that developing the resiliency is like, in all those people, make sure you surround yourself with people that are resilient too.
That's important. You have to. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, no, listen. What's that?
And you shouldn't do it by yourself.
Exactly. So, bro, it's wild. And both of us are in. I'm just realizing this. Both of us right now are in masterminds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate. I've always been a fan of masterminds. Both you and I are a fan of masterminds. And bless up to the people, our subscribers. Be on the lookout this year. We will have our own mastermind to support you and for you to be around other people that are going to help you build your success. So I think part of that developing resilient identity is who you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. Are these people that have overcome and thrive, right? It's not like and I remember when you talked about joining this mastermind that you're in right now, you're like, look, I want to be in that room. Those people are where I want to be. So I'm going to be able to hear things and see things and like get feedback. And mm-hmm. I think that's also part of this managing guilt and shame or overcoming it is redefining failure as failure as feedback. Because when you're in the right room and you're around the right people, you'll get feedback that's going to support you. Okay. And we talked about this probably about 15 minutes ago when you're talking about the close-knit your close friends. And I was saying, like, listen, when you're hearing from them or when they're giving you like their perspective, that's feedback. A lot of people, when they experience guilt and shame, Brian, they're like, you know what? This happened. But if you're not looking at it like, well, what's the lesson that I learned here? Like, what can I carry on into the next op? Because if I fail to look at it that way, then of course I'm gonna be littered with freaking guilt. Like, I did this wrong. What am I, a terrible business person? I'm a terrible father, relation, husband. Yo, how are you going to use this data, this failure, this feeling of you did something wrong, you are wrong. What are the ways that you can use that as feedback to switch shit?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Like, if you're coming at me like, oh, I'm terrible at this, and I go to you, Paul, and I'd be like, no, you're not terrible. All you got to do is do A, B, and C, or next time try doing this, and you're going to feel better. So
Yeah,
instead of
man.
looking at that, find somebody like a mentor, find somebody. Listen, everything that you possibly want to know is ChatGPT, Google,
Yep.
YouTube,
Yep.
anything. You have no excuse not to have a mentor. There's no excuse not to be like low. I mean, like, you listen, you might not have like a lot of physical friends, but you can find people out there. You can find people out there.
They're out there, man. They're out there. And listen, I was having a conversation with my neighbor a couple of nights ago, and he was like, sometimes I'm just up. Like he's got a landscaping and like cleaning business, like a basically landscaping business. And he was like, yeah, sometimes I'm up and I'm just like researching like how to fix things like with some of the machines. And I'm like, dude, that's what I'm talking about. And it goes right into what you're saying. There's data out there to support you if you seek it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you seek it. Because some cats are booty hats. They don't, they'll use guilt and shame as a tool to beat themselves up because that's the place that they're coming from.
Yeah. They don't feel like they deserve it.
Exactly, bro. Like there's wow, man. And listen, we're 35 minutes in and 36, and this is the root of some shit.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the root. Let's get to it. This is the root of it. Like, do you feel you deserve shit? Like people, do you feel that you deserve shit? If you don't, guess what? Here comes guilt and shame, my friends. Do-da, coming on you, man.
Yeah.
It's a must for us to be able to, and this is coming back to the resiliency, developing a resilient identity, because the resiliency is I'm gonna come back from this stronger. I'm coming back stronger. Like, damn, got my ass. Okay, coming back stronger. Okay, and this is the piece, people. Listen, Brian and I, Brian and I, when we're coming to you and talk to you all about this thing, I'm going to put the disclaimer out there. Like, we're free of coming from a place of judgment.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak for myself. Like, and actually I'll speak for both of us. We're coming from a place of we've taken a lot of lessons. We've been kicked in the teeth, punched, tripped up, fallen down, broken bones, or figuratively, literally, all that stuff. You know why? Because we learned from it, and now we're taking this and giving it to you here. And the main thing, if you take one thing away from it, is like, what's your worth? Is your worth in a place where you're like, I'm going to get this because I know I can, or I deserve it, or whatever? Or are you in a place of, well, like Eeyore, like I was Eeyore, like I caught like, but yo, bro, before pregame, I was like in something, I had mute. And I was like, I killed, bro. I was like, way to kill my Eeyore. I was like, huh? Oh shit. Oh, I didn't, you know what I mean? But like, listen, people are Eeyores out here, man.
Yeah. And I feel like if you don't feel like you deserve to be happy, you just don't understand God, source. You don't understand the universe and how it works. Because the universe, the spirit, whatever you believe in, it doesn't go on judgment. Only humans do. It's a human way to think. It's not a spiritual way to think. So many spiritual teachings, like, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, whatever it is, like, they teach that self-judgment it's unnecessary, because the universe always operates on growth, not punishment. And if you don't get that, if you don't understand that, you're in the wrong religion, you're in the wrong mindset. I have nothing against religion as long as it serves its purpose and it makes but if your religion creates guilt and shame, like, it's not a religion. You're just in a mind trap, set up by other egotistical people. So your religion should make you feel good, it should make you feel whole, it should make you feel loving. So you just don't. Basically, my point is like the universe is all about growth. You're a piece of God, whether you believe in it or not. You're a piece of the source, and he's not going to. God is pure potential, pure love, and it wants to see you grow.
Yeah, God, yeah. Instead of guilt, it's grace.
Exactly.
Instead of guilt, it's grace. And it's why, and I have up here like adopt a long-term perspective. And I based on what you were saying, I think it's important for us to discuss this, because when you think about that source, God, Allah, religion, whatever you're to out there, folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking at this like, hey, there's grace in like, okay, hey, listen, this is a bump in the road, but 5 years this may not matter. It won't matter. It could matter if you learn from it, because that may be the greatest lesson that you have, right? So I think it's important that and this comes back to something you said before, B, is like if a person's in an emotional state, whether it's sadness, guilt, shame, are your goals big enough? Are your goals big enough? Do you have a long-term vision? Because I'll tell you right now, if you have a long-term vision, you won't get caught in guilt and shame for too long, my friends.
Nope.
Not
at all.
Not at all, bro. What? You're like, yo, man, I'm gonna be here in 5 years. Ah, shit, man, I just lost $500. That's okay. I'll make it back. I'll make it back. It's what it is, bro. Like, I'll tell you what. When I was going through that stuff with the the establishment of paternity, one of the things that helped me get over it was like, I'm gonna make that money back. I'm making that money back. Paying out child support, 147 grand to the kid that's not even mine. And you know what? Law's like, you're not getting it back. Haha, sorry. Thanks. Counting my money and shit for some pension. But you know what? To help me get over the anger and get over that, well, I'm still a little angry. But to help me get over the situation, I knew in my head, in my heart, and in my spirit, I'm making that money back, bro.
You will.
5 times it, bro. 5 times it. I'm making that money back, because here's why. I'm looking at it long term. If I'm sitting here in this place like, this woman did this to me for the past 10 years, I'm living in the past. So I'm stuck. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm starting to look at like, oh, I'll make that money back. And I'm telling you, as I'm thinking about it, my mindset shifted to like, okay, what do I get to do? Okay. All right. I got to step up on that then. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're talking about. Brian's talked about this. I'm telling you about this, peoples. As soon as you can make the choice to look ahead and learn from this, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
You win.
You got to control the controllables. As we talk about that a lot. You can't control anything in the past. You can learn from it. You can't control anything in the past.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's been times, God, I've done like so many things. Like I remember one time I put a majority of my money in one stock. It was so dumb. Like I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing. And it basically like, it got all the way up to like, I want to say close to $400,000. It just crushed it. And then within a matter of a half hour, it dropped down to 150. I literally lost $250,000 in an hour. I was like, first thing that came to my mind is like, I mean, my plan was long term anyway. I wasn't going to pull it out or anything like that. I just wanted to kind of keep it in there. But my first reaction was like, oh, this could be a fun story to tell. Like, how many people lost $250,000 in an hour? Like this guy,
Yeah,
but
I did.
Yes. Even to this day, like I still laugh at it. But I didn't. The money that I used for it, I didn't need the money. It was just like kind of sitting there, and it was like, all right, let me gamble with it. And the stock just blew up, and it was in the right place at the right time. But anyway, what my point is like, all right, now I learned to diversify a little more. And at the end of the day, like I kept going forward. Like there's nothing I can do. The 250's gone. There you go, man. It's out in the ether. It's gone. But I knew that down the road, even at that time, I wasn't like successful where I am now. I still want to be more successful. So I don't like really using that term, but I'm growing. But $250,000 to me, it's still nice money to have, but it's not like, oh my God, I wish I had to have that now, or I wouldn't be in the position I am now. So it's like, I'm okay. Like, cause I kept moving forward, and now it's like, like again, it's good money to have, but I'm not sweating on it. I don't care about it anymore.
Yeah, because you weren't stuck in it. You're like, man. Now listen, like in that situation, again, this is a great example of where guilt and shame can come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a person's like, oh man, like, why did I pick that stock? I should have got it.
You should have sold it. Yeah, I'm like,
and if you look at what we said, the should shaming, right?
Yeah.
That's that should shaming. Don't should on me, man. Don't be free of shoulding on yourself. As soon as you say you should, you going right down the path of guilt and shame, my friends. Right down that path. You're like, start marching. As soon as you bring that should in, it's a wrap. But like, this is the piece, right? Is that if a person like is in that space of like, oh, this happened. Again, like this is where people can go off the edge because they're locked in a mistake. Like, people kill themselves. People off themselves on this, man.
Yeah, and I bring this up to a lot of people I do consulting with, like how I lost that money, and one of the first things they always say to me is like, "How are you not pissed about that?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, did my heart drop a little bit? Yeah, like did I sleep great that night? No, but like I knew I had to get over it and kind of keep going forward. So I try to use that lesson to motivate people. So because I bring that up in a lot of times when people are like, oh yeah, I invested like $2,000 in this business and it just blew up. So I was kind of nervous doing this. Well, you know what, man, I lost $250,000 in an hour. Let me tell you how I did it and how stupid I was for doing that. So, but and I'm not looking for, them to like, be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, look at me and be like, oh my God, you're amazing. I'm not looking for that. I want them to, the story, when I tell that story, I want them to get out of it, that just keep looking ahead, shake it off, go ahead, keep moving. I don't want them to be like, wow, you're amazing, for doing that or having that mindset. That's amazing. No, anyone can do it. Just move forward and you don't think about the past. You can't.
And you said something that's really key. I want to acknowledge. You said, let me show you, let me talk to you about how stupid I was. Okay. Coming back to the language of guilt and shame. Shame is how stupid I am. When you say how stupid I was, that's telling me you learned a lesson there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good point.
Language is key, right? Language is very key because a person can tell where someone really is in the language that they speak. So I bring this up for the viewers because for you, if you know someone that tends to be in a lot of guilt and shame, be mindful of the language and you may have to help steer them to something different. If they're like, I'm so stupid. Well, then maybe that was a dumb decision, but like, I'm sure you learned something from there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like when people start talking to people that are like, "Oh, I'm so stupid." Well, hold up. Are you? Because that's like when I'm mentoring and coaching cats, it's like I got to be very mindful of language because a lot of times, especially like the market that I'm in, like it's working with men that are like that are ascending, that are getting through some stuff, that are working through a lot of the past mistakes in that guilt and shame. So it's about really listening to the language. And also developing a way to move through the adversity. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about some things as we've gone through, but when it's, I really appreciate this part of creating an adversity toolkit. Right. And I think, and be like, while we start, like, as we're starting to wrap this up with a nice little Bowie bow. Mm-hmm. Let's give the people like for a couple of things each that they could possibly add to the adversity toolkit. And for the folks that are watching, put in the comments if we say something that, or we didn't say something that you had in mind. Put in the comments, man. Put in the comments. But I'm going to kick it off. I think one of the things to have in an adversity toolkit is a circle of support, or your counsel. It's very important. We talked about that before. Have people in your life that can touch like, what do you mean you're stupid? You were. Where are you now? Where are you going? Hey, you know what? You made a mistake. Let me tell you about something I did that I could help you out. Stuff like that. I think the core of support is super important. What you got, B?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good for like an emotional support system. That's great. I'll look into more of a logical support system, like maybe go to YouTube. Just say if it's something to do with finance, you made a financial mistake, go to YouTube. You made a, like a relationship mistake, maybe go to YouTube. That might kind of be tied in with emotional too. But any kind of mistake that you made, just keep going forward. When you're sprinting, you can't see what's behind you. So just keep running forward. That would be mine. That kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying with mentors, but go into adapt to highlight the right brain or left brain. I'm sorry, the left brain logic.
Yeah, the logic, like yeah. So I like that. And my other one, like in your adversity toolkit, what's coming up to share is a vision statement. Like, have a vision statement. What does that mean, Paul? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's something, so you want to look at what you want, what you see, what you choose, what you intend. Okay. What you want is the goal. What you see is, all right, this is how I see myself in the future. Right? So I see myself. That's that long term. I choose. These are the actions I take to get there. I intend. That's the long-term vision. So being able to have that vision statement, and this is something I was teaching the youngins a couple of weeks ago. It helps to course correct. So if you experience or you do something, you're like, I'm blah 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 blah, you're in your guilt and shame. Tap into your vision statement and notice what comes up for you in your body. I'm in with that.
My last one would be be grateful for what you have. It's because I think, yeah, that's the universal language for manifestation, right? So the more whatever you're grateful for, the more you're going to manifest, and not just grateful in your mind, but like feel it in your heart, like feel it. You should feel your whole body like vibrating when you're truly grateful for something. So when you do make in business, if you make a stupid mistake, be like, all right, I'm grateful that I had the courage to at least try to make a business or try to, grow a business. Where most people, they like to play safe. I'm grateful for having that confidence in myself. So like that'd be like one example. I'm grateful, like you have a fight with your wife, like, hey man, I'm grateful for, having this woman in my life because, she's the most supportive person I've ever met. She's beautiful. We get along really good. She has good morals and values. I'm grateful for that. And that'll attract more things, more better circumstances and situations into your life. So I'm always grateful. Always grateful. That's it, my man. That's it.
Ooh, be gone, guilt and shame. Be gone, damn it.
Be gone.
Listen, peoples. Poof. It's a Ratsky. Listen, peoples. Like, share, subscribe. This is, Brian and I have fun doing this, and these topics, we like to have fun because these topics can be very serious.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean, B? And
yeah.
When we're talking to you all about this, like, please take note. Notice where these things are in yourself. And like Brian said, we got over 80 videos that we've put out in ways to help you in various forms of health and well-being. Tap in. YouTube's got a plethora of videos to support you. Tap in. There's people out there that want to support you. The thing is, all these things will fail to be available to you if you sit in your shit and you're guilty about thinking you did something wrong or you think you're a bad person. That's a temporary mindset. So where are you going to move it to? Very important, people. So be free of like disregarding this, like, I'll be fine. No, this is something that plagues you, this guilt, this shame. It's ruining your life and dampening your spirit. I'm going to get off my soapbox. B, any last words, Brian?
You summed it up beautifully, my man. Everything was good.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yep.
Get out of that guilt and shame. You like that song, B?
Only when you sing it.
Hey, you know what, bro? I think after we get the book out, right, and we get the mastermind, we're gonna come up with black. It's more than black or white's greatest hits. And then
That'll be you singing.
just me singing like shooby dooby doo. Yep, that's it, man. Yo, it'll be the hottest. Yo, it's gonna be hot, son.
Yeah.
People get ready.
We might sell one. We might sell one.
And it may be returned, but that's okay. We gonna get it out there, bro. And actually, I might be the only one buying it. So it'll be real bad if I return my own stuff. But listen, everybody. Well, peace out, everybody. Bless up to you. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Be out of here. Peace out.